kids. Welcome to the Kapitol Life Podcast. I am your host, Abby Pagood. This is where we talk about all the things that life brings, the good, the bad, and of course, the healthy. And today's episode is called Transmission. So we are actually going to have another episode of Keeping It Real with Real People. And today I have with you our special guest, Dr. Julia. Welcome to the Kapitol Life, Dr. Julia.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And I cannot say your last name. I even told you beforehand that I wasn't even going to fub it up on air because that's just not cool. But like, how do you actually say your last name?
It's Augustyniak.
Augustyniak. Okay, that's not so bad.
No, it's intimidating looking at it, but then once you hear it, you're like, okay, I can do that.
Okay, a little bit of fine tune and finessing. So I could totally get that. Well, let's transition. One of the reasons why I was really excited about having you on is because you and I see similarities within the practice. And even though we do completely different things, they complement each other. And there's so much needed where it's like a tag team system for our clients. But it's interesting that we seem to have like similarities within the industry that we see like common denominators, not only with our clients, but also with other practitioners or even like issues within the industry. And it just gets really, I don't know, annoying.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I don't really know a better way to explain other than it's can be like thoroughly exhausting of when you're starting to get progress and then something bombards because, you know, it was like an old school mentality that pops through. And it's just because it's almost like a trained behavior response, right? Like, you know, it's immediately like, you know, what's going on with your body, but then sometimes the desperation of wanting to get better, then you like drop everything that's working to just go back to like a medication or, you know, going back to a Western medicine doctor that ends up doing like a Band-Aid effect instead of actually going to the root cause of the problem.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree. I see it all the time in my office I always have to tell people, you know, this is going to take time. You're changing years and years of things that have piled up over time. So you're not going to get this one visit fix, but it is a lifestyle change. It takes anywhere from 60 to 90 days to create a new habit. So we're changing the things that we've been just programmed to do over the years. But unfortunately, a lot of people are like, well, I want to see an immediate result. And I'm like, well, if you're wanting to go the more natural route, it's going to take time and effort.
Right.
And it's like a roller coaster. It's got its ups and downs for sure. It's not just going to be smooth sailing the entire time.
Well, and I don't think people realize that sometimes the immediate result actually causes more damage and then creates more hindrance of progression. And so like I'm finding that a lot of times it's like, you know, as soon as someone has certain types of pain, especially when we started getting into like spinal fusions, just drive me up the fucking wall. Like I cannot, like anytime I hear spinal fusion, I'm like, mother trucker. Like we were like, there's so many different things. Now, I do agree that there's a small percentage that is a resort, like we have to go that direction, but it's a very minuscule percentage in my belief system of like where, you know, sometimes it's some of these doctors get so trigger happy to like start cutting in or they just get knife happy. You know, and I really hope that they're not doing it deliberately. I think it's almost like they've learned that bit of education and then they think it's the encompassed solution. And so therefore they continue to go that direction and they've just been drinking the Kool-Aid for so long that they don't consider alternatives because they see immediate results with people. But then if they really took their workload and went back to their client base even 2 years after, there's still pain. They're still having issues, you know, and I tell everybody, you know, hey, when you've got the rotator cuff issue and you've got the knee issue, as soon as you go under the knife within 8 to 12 years, no question, you have to go up for a cleanup or another redo. There's no question about it. And then when it comes to when you get your spinal fusions, it's like within 2 years, they're going in for another one. Have you noticed the same like pattern trend that's been happening?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would love to know how many patients actually are given alternative options before even bringing up spinal fusions or disc surgeries, all kinds of crazy things going under the knife, when I'd love to hear if they're like, hey, I did a thorough PT evaluation and did all my exercises and kept up with the exercises, or I saw a chiropractor, got regular adjustments, I did decompression, I did all the things, and then we can start talking, hey, what is the problem? But with back to what you were saying with the rotator cuff, I find that most rotator cuff patients that come into my office have some sort of internal issue. And yes, they might have been a baseball player. That is just a legit injury that they've had repeatedly over time. But people who just wake up one day and have frozen shoulder and they don't have any like serious issues, or have these rotator cuff issues out of nowhere, and they went up to go pick something up off of a shelf, it's just, I end up finding with all of the muscles and all of the organs related to those muscles in the shoulder that it's more of an internal issue that they need to start taking care of, rather than getting that surgery that, again, like you said, isn't even gonna help too much. Almost every shoulder patient that I have, they still experience pain. So, and then it's more so just increasing that pain.
I think you pointed out something really important, is that you connected it to the organs that are connected to the muscles. And, so like one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that their life experiences and their traumas, they play into our cells. They stay in our cells. The frequencies are there. The trauma, the effect of what happens to our body. Like a lot of times, it's very, very common for me that when I have a client that is going through one of their life phase transitions, right? So especially my teeny boppers, right? My teeny boppers that are, they've been doing the same thing, the same sport that they've always done since they were born, right? And then they get to that 13, 14, 15 years old, and they're in this hard, difficult transition of, do I quit? Do I stay with the sport? What do I want to look like into my, pre-adult years? Like, what kind of life decisions do I want to make? What is my identity? Anytime they're questioning that, coincidentally, anything from their hip down is bothering them, right?
Yeah.
Like all the things of, what am I stepping into? What course, what path do I want to choose? Who do I want to be? All of those moving forward actions is playing in their body, and then all of a sudden their ankle's bugging them, and it hasn't bugged them for like 5 years, or they're having an issue with their knee, right? And so I find it very interesting on how, when we're going through certain things in our life, even when we're going through, it could be family feuds, or it could be trying to do career changes, or when you're suppressing your voice because you can't speak the way that you want to as openly, and therefore you're not heard. I wonder why you get cramping up around the neck and shoulder region by your throat chakra. Like, coincidentally.
Oh yeah. No, I find most of the people that actually have low back pain, it's related to gut. Almost I would say 9 out of 10 times. People who have chronic low back pain, chronic disc issues, for example, it's a lot of the time gut. And it also can be stress, because there's this whole gut brain connection. When our body's stressed out, it impacts our gut. And then the chronic inflammation spike starts to go its way, and then the pain results. And so people think,
well, and it's our organs have to do double duty when we're stressed out, right? So it's I'm always talking about really respecting the liver and its awesomeness, because it's always filtering out everything. There's so much filtering going on, and it's I can't even stand it when people get into the keto fix concept, and they start jumping in and ooh, yay, keto. And I'm like, abuse your liver more. Yay. That's just rude. Don't do that. It's not nice to your body. Just be nice to your organs, because they totally take us through so many different things.
This episode of The Kapitol Life is brought to you by Be Zen Holistic Wellness Center, where modern tools meet ancient wisdom to help you reclaim your health and rediscover balance. Nestled in the heart of Allen, Texas, Be Zen offers multidisciplinary approach to empowering you to take the lead in your health journey. Whether you're navigating fatigue, weight changes, migraines, menopause, allergies, GI issues, or chronic pain, Be Zen's expert team is here to guide you. They will help you restore balance, enhance your well-being, and feel healthier, happier, and more at peace. Visit Be Zen Holistic Wellness Center today, and let's get back to the basics of being human together. Please like, share, and rate us on whatever platform you're listening. It's how we start to really spread the message of good in the world that needs it so much right now.
Yeah, I'm this. People ask me all the time in my office about different diets, and I'm like, I'm not going to prescribe you one diet to follow, because
all of us are different.
All of us are different. Right. Yeah. Well, I followed keto before, and it honestly was the worst time of my life.
Because you were the wrong lab rat.
I was a very active person, and I went from being active, working out weekly, to barely being able to walk up a flight of stairs. I was so out of breath. I was not sleeping well. My hormones got out of whack. And I learned that, I need some carbohydrates. But then there are other people that, they thrive on that, and carbohydrates just don't agree with them. So I'm not all like, one diet is
I look at it as like the thing is with keto, I mean, when they came out with it for epileptics in the 1920s.
Yeah.
So then of course, your meathead, your classic meathead from the 1980s that were all low carb. And I'm not saying low carb isn't bad, but they use low carb for manipulation for performance purposes, which people do all the time. And there's no issue with that. I just don't like doing that for a long-term lifespan. It's like, okay, do it as a challenge to see how much you can test your body, but don't do that. Every time it's summer, I've got to trim down, and then you go in this fluctuating circumstances. So it's like that's too much on your body. That's too much stress. But it's interesting because what I've found is that with keto, a lot of people, it was, if you were I always say you're the right lab rat, because it's 50% of people it works great with. If they feel empowered and energetic and whatever, hey, you found a really good solution. Now, do I believe in cutting your carbohydrates down to that small a percentage? No, because your brain is not getting what it needs to function properly. Because I think it's 136 or 138 grams of carbohydrates that your brain needs a day in order to just function and not have the dum-dum effect. So I always kind of look at it hey, if you're feeling great on keto, fine, but instead, here's your protein, here's your vegetables, call it a day. Vegetables or fruits, call it a day.
Yes.
That's fine. Don't freak out that you had a bell pepper at 25 grams and you're already over your max. We need a bell pepper hurt anybody unless you have problems with nightshade foods. I don't know. So that's my whole drawing the line. But if you were like you, where you tried keto and it was shit to the wall, acid grass, I feel like a zombie, then you're the wrong lab rat. That's not the right combination for you. Your body can't function off of that. And I know your physique, you're already thin thin anyway. So you just burn through carbohydrates like it's nobody's business.
Yeah. I've always been like that, soccer player here in my past life. But no, and I get when people are like, I'm going to do keto because I need to cut my carbohydrates, but we're talking your processed carbohydrates. So the sugars, the pastas, the breads,
but totally don't call it keto. That's my thing.
Then just go I actually in my office have it's a 21-day challenge of cutting out all of your processed sugar, your processed carbs, fruit and vegetables to your heart's desire. You can do unlimited.
Yeah.
No alcohol, no fried food, but do it for 21 days.
Yeah, I do the same thing with my Capital Cleanse for 30. So I do you cut out all the crap, all of the excess, even some of the condiments, sauces, all the extra things that don't really make sense. And then it really helps identify some of the food sensitivities that are out there, because a lot of people don't realize that the food sensitivities provide that gastrointestinal inflammation, and then it's harder for your body to actually absorb the nutrients that you're actually consuming, and then you're setting yourself up. It's like when you're trying to be good, you weren't, because you didn't even realize that, and some of those sensitivities could be to a banana. It's just some people don't even realize that.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I even find with the food sensitivities, depends on what's going on in people's guts. So it's if you have a leaky gut, you're going to be so much more sensitive to so many different foods, and they might not be your sensitive food for forever. It's just, we need to clean your gut up first. Right. And then you might be able to say, hey, you know what, I can tolerate that food again. You know, it's just because I was treating my gut awfully. And now that we got it back to a healthy range and good microbiome, that I can actually tolerate bananas again, or you know, I can have rice once in a while.
We had the same thing. We had the same issue with my daughter, you know, like, you know, I specialize in this shit, and then she's still having issues with her gut. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? So we had to do her blood work and get all of her answers that we knew. And sure enough, it was like rice was just torturing her. And now she can eat it just fine. She loves rice. She's like the best Asian, like, rice cooker person ever. Like, that's, you know, like, that's what it is I go downstairs and I'm like, okay, Leo, please make the rice. And she's like, on it. Like, cause she just does. She's Polynesian. It's in her blood. She can make the rice. Like, I don't do as good a job. So I'm not the rice cooker in our family. So it's fine. But now she'll eat it all the time and she's no issue. But when she was little, she would have fights with her dad at the dinner table, like resisting rice. And sure, lo and behold, her body that was one of her primary, that was one of her primary issues, was the inflammatory response with rice. Where for me, it was like my dairy was bad and it got worse. But then my gluten sensitivity practically corrected itself. So now I don't even have to worry about it. But I just have a tendency to just eat more clean anyway. So I just refrain from it regardless. So but my body functions more on a pescatarian diet. But if I didn't do the blood testing, if I didn't do the research to find that out and invest in my future and invest in my performance, then I wouldn't know. And I'd probably be I probably would have quit the industry. I would have been depressed. I would have been behind a cubicle. Can you imagine this in a cubicle? Like,
no,
I don't think that's going to happen.
That's right. I can't even imagine. I'm like, I have to that's like putting Tigger in a box.
It's like Tigger in a box. Like,
it doesn't work like that with me either.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so what are some of your biggest pet peeves that we are seeing in the industry right now? Because we've had a lot of random stuff come up in the last 5 years, just with, you know, COVID coming around and vaccine status coming around and people being like all over the place with their decisions, mainly stem from fear tactics and fear decisions. But like, what are some of the most like pet peeves that you've had, especially in the last like 3-4 years?
Biggest recent one is weight loss with people. Okay. So it's becoming a bigger and bigger thing that people are doing whatever they can to lose weight and they're still not losing weight. So, hey, here's a pill. Here's an injection. I'm going to do this real quick to lose weight. I'm going to take all these side effects with me, but people just aren't willing to take the time and put the effort into doing the right things to lose weight in a healthy way without being detrimental to their health. That's one thing that I'm always like, hey, just be patient. You're not going to shed 30 to 40 pounds in 4 weeks, you know, and if you are, then that's not healthy. And so that's one of the biggest things that I found recently. I think people are very much more reactive since the COVID vaccinations I think people that had the COVID vaccine have been getting sick more and more.
I've had anytime that people clients.
Anytime that I have people that are just constantly getting sick in my office, or they're very reactive to stuff I give them, or anything that
where they have it longer. They have it it's almost like instead of having it for one, because of all the vaccines and the flu shots and everything, we're having this mutant viruses, mutant illnesses that are just getting really out there. They're stronger and they're harder to kick. And then on top of that, those that have decided to proceed in that direction years back, it's almost like it takes them 3 times longer to kick the habit, or to kick kick the illness. And I've also noticed, especially the children have been getting sick. I have a couple clients where their kids get sick every month. every
Yes.
month. And it's like, and it's everything. It's from the RSV to the cold, to the influenza, to the strep throat, to they're catching every single thing. Like their body has a very much reduced immune response.
Yes. Oh, I've strep. I have had like, we're only in the end of March. I've already had like at least 7 or 8 patients that have strep that have come into my
It's
office.
insane.
And it's like, it is insane. And it wreaks havoc, because even just going more natural and trying to kick it doesn't go away as fast as I'm used to, especially with doing the right supplementation. It's just crazy that it's taking me longer to get people better. Like whether it's I test them and they got viral stuff going on, and it's, instead of it being 2 supplements, it's like 3 or 4 supplements we have to go through to fully get that immune system to really recognize what's going on. It's just insane how.
Well, and I've had like I describe it to my clients as lice, right? Like lice back in the day when they had the lice shampoo, use the lice shampoo, it stunned everything and killed everything out, and then you didn't have a problem. And it was just one and you're done, and it wasn't an issue.
Right.
You clean your house, you deal with all the grossness, and it's awful. Like, but at the same time, it was a one-time affair. Nowadays, it's like there's reasons why there's clinics that are making a fortune for this, and it's because the lice has adapted to the killer. It's adapted to the shampoo, to which they've had to add more potency to it, to the point where God knows how healthy that is for our body.
Exactly.
Yeah, like we have to get to the point where we're putting like Roundout on our head, like just to kill like something out. But it's like, it's going to that massive proportion of extremes. And like my frustration with the industry has been, when did we stop listening to what our body needed, or making the choices that were best for ourselves? Like, like insurance companies are now somehow dictating what paperwork or what orders are actually approved when a doctor's processing through the hospital. So it's like, if you have an abnormal situation, like a very rare incident, and you're like, you know what, I really need to pull blood work from this corner. And then it's like all of a sudden the hospital gets it, it goes to the top, and insurance denies it. And then it's like a doctor's paying for the blood test to go through because they need to know that, and it's actually going to fix their patient, or at least get to the result of the patient. But instead, like insurance is saying, oh no, we're not going to cover this. And then so now insurance is dictating how we deal with people I'm not understanding that. Like how did that come about and change? Because I know it started to a certain degree when insurance started changing back in the Obamacare release days, where it was like dictating. I remember I was working for a chiropractor at the time too, where I witnessed clients of mine that had 53 chiropractic adjustments covered in a year, right? 53, like once a week. Amazing. That's fantastic coverage, because hey, you're not going to need them every week, but like if something comes up, at least we have can see you 2-3 times a week until we get you where we need you to be, and at least it's there. And then all of a sudden the next year they got approved for 12.
Yeah, I was gonna say 12's like the average number. So that's
I don't even know how to fix somebody after a car accident with 12 sessions. Like, I mean, that's freaking ridiculous. On top of like physical therapy, they went from having 32 sessions approved for the year down to like 8. What the fuck am I supposed to do with 8? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about, like, especially if it's a major issue. So like, I mean, like I'm noticing things within the industry where it's like, our practices are getting cut on what we're allowed to do with our clients. And then it's forcing us to not accept insurance, or not having to deal with a lot of the hogwash that's out there. And the worst part is it ends up creating almost like a war between holistic and like Western medicine, which is not okay, because not all of us are saying that Western medicine is like BS and cursed. It's that it has divine intervention. It's there when we need it. That's where it's supposed to be. We have enough people in this world to cover everybody. Everybody's going to make money. Everyone's going to have a practice, but like let's work together.
Right. No, I mean, in my office, I don't take insurance because first off, functional medicine's not covered by insurance. But second, I know it's going to dictate the type of care that I provide for my patients, and I know what I do works. So I really don't want an insurance company telling me, no, you can't do this, or no, you can't bill this or that. And, I get phone calls all the time asking, hey, do you take insurance? And people are looking to use their insurance. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but
I'll give you an invoice and you can submit it and see if they'll cover it.
And that's what I do. That's what I do. And I take FSA and HSA cards and people use them and they have no issues. Not everybody's insurance plan has that, but it's sad that people have to spend more money when they're already paying for their health insurance.
What I always used to do is that with my husband's age, because I own my own company, so I don't get the luxury of having an HSA fund and all that fun stuff. But you know what I'm talking about. We have to take care of ourselves because, hello, one, it's our industry. We have to lead by example. But number two is that our insurance is different. It's not the same. It's not the same kind of thing. But it was funny because when my husband was working for a company and had his HSA, I would just take out the amount that we would spend on our self-care practices. And that's what we spent. And then we never ended up really having to worry about a deductible because it was our regular check-ins were, approved. And so therefore it was our regular check-ins and our blood work were done. And then we had our regular, here's our regular cleanings and all this other stuff. But then the amount of money that we spent on oils or, acupuncture or supplementation or doing all that stuff. But we do those things regularly to the point where we didn't really have a lot of things, thankfully, that would pop up. And it was really just making sure, hey, when you wake up and you're like, ooh, that's not right. Okay, I got to go in. Your body has a self-awareness more so when you're focusing on your self-care practices and you're bringing it to light. And your body really has to pay attention to what's going on. But there's so many, it's interesting because some of my first time clients coming in, they have no body awareness. It's their body's not connected. They just know that they hurt. They don't even know what normal actually feels like for them, to not be pain-free and actually be able to think clearly without an overclouding headache or that ache and pain. Oh, it's stiffness. Oh, okay, well, let's try to figure out what that's going on. But I find it so interesting that we have that body awareness, and then it does not take long for them to get it. 2-3 appointments tops, and they're already after the first session, they get up and they're like, holy crap. And it's their brain, they don't even know what to do with themselves because they're in a state of shock of holy crap. And then the next time they're like, hey, I'm starting to feel a little bit cringy, or, I'm feeling like I'm having tweaks or whatever. And so then I'm like, oh, come in for a tune-up. We'll cut it off. It's fixed out. They come in. Next thing you know, it's that second time they're their whole body awareness is awake and alive, which is incredible. And it's how much of our lives do we go without any body awareness? I mean, the people that break my heart are the ones that have been going 10, 15 years in pain and they've never known anything else.
Yep. Oh, it's crazy because, I mean, obviously me and you, we live very healthy lifestyles. And it's kind of crazy because whenever me and my boyfriend will go on a trip or something and we do have some things, we're on vacation, and we're like, oh my gosh, we feel awful. And then we think to ourselves, we're so hard on ourselves. Why are we doing this? But then we think about, we're not running through a fast food drive-through every single day. We're not doing all of these other things. So imagine how awful we could feel. But I think a lot of people are just so used to the way that they feel and they don't realize how good they can feel. They're just used to just going in their own world.
It's quote unquote, they're normal. They're normal. Yes. They've adapted to discomfort.
Yep, exactly. And their body just knows it as the normal thing. And then a lot of their symptoms they would have maybe felt in the beginning eventually go away. Their body just is like, this is the new norm. I'm used to waking up and my knees are killing me. I'm used to waking up with a headache every single day, and I'll just take some ibuprofen. It's just all this,
Oh my God,
all
which,
this
like,
different
just
stuff.
irritates the gut even more so. Like, I
Oh,
mean,
I know. I'm like,
it's so bad. And then when I hear, even just even an adult or whatever, where they've like taking it daily
every
just
day.
to get
Yes.
through functionality, I'm like, that's not okay, like at
Yeah.
all. Like,
No. I usually I'll run blood work on them, and I'm like, oh, you have so much inflammation going on. It's not even funny. Well, how does that happen? Okay. let's
why,
run through let's run through
why
all of the things.
food exposure, like
Yeah.
that's just to start. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well,
Well, okay, so you actually personally, like, I know from my own backstory, food sensitivities became a really big component, especially after my daughter was born. And it got to the point where, and I'd lost the baby weight, I was in shape, I was feeling great. And then, looking at me fit as a fiddle, like no one would want to mess with me. But then at the same time, like if you asked me to bend over and pick up a pen, I wanted to kill you because it was rude. Like, how dare you ask me to move? Because that is a really difficult thing. Like, I got to the point where I was so fatigued and worn down, and I really had to jump in and do my blood work and find out, like, what the hell is wrong, and then that's where, it was like tomatoes and gluten and eggs and dairy and like all these huge undertaking. And I had a really good friend, dietitian friend at the time, and she really just said to me, she was like, she didn't even want to just do a 21-day or 30-day clean out. She made me do a 90-day clean out.
I was gonna
And
say at least
I was
3 months.
oh yeah. Like, she was like, you are so bad, you have to do a 90-day clean out. And so we did, and then my energy started coming back and I started feeling better. And some of my sensitivities were, I was like, ooh, I could still have dairy once a week, because I was like, ooh, I really loved it. And then now that's just no longer a thing. But like, you had a similar kind of discovery that led you down a path that I'm under the impression led you to what you're doing today, because it kind
Yeah.
of defined your career path, basically. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I got into the natural medicine. I mean, I grew up seeing a chiropractor, and started getting hormonal migraines when I was in high school, like debilitating, couldn't go to school, started having major hormone issues. And I went down the conventional route, birth control, everything, you name it. Little did I know 10, 12 years later that was going to ruin my hormones and make me have to work even harder to regulate those hormones. But I had a natural doc that was able to kind of figure things out. And going forward, after the migraines, going into college, natural doctor that was checking me out said, your gallbladder's not doing too hot. 6 months later, I had to get that out in not emergency surgery, but I was in so much pain that I unfortunately had to get it out. And I look back today and I'm like, I wish I knew what I know now to have saved that, because people are like, oh, well, gallbladder doesn't do anything. I don't need it. And I'm like, it's the total opposite. The gallbladder is like,
I actually have more people that have problems with their digestion that the gallbladder went, and then we actually have less that we can do because the gallbladder's missing. If you find this helpful or insightful, don't forget to connect with us on Facebook and YouTube at Kapitol Health. That's Kapitol Health. Also, visit us at capitalhealth.com and subscribe to our newsletter and get wicked awesome updates.
I'm chronically on digestive enzymes, like to ebb and flow. Like, hey, you know what? Maybe bowel movements are a little bit different this month. I need to start taking my gallbladder enzyme, or I need to take this, I need to take that. And it's just like a constant ebbing and flowing every month, because my gut is not the same since I got that gallbladder out. And also, I was not gluten free. That around the same time I was discovering about just gluten issues and stuff too. And so unfortunately, I was totally like in high school, the mac and cheese, pasta, played soccer, so I didn't gain any weight and I could eat whatever I wanted. But little did I know that the gluten was causing me so many issues. All of my skin issues I had growing up, bumps on the backs of my arms and legs, minute I cut gluten out and avoided it for 3 months, my bumps were completely gone. So it's just crazy. The things that we put into our body can really influence how we feel. And yeah, that's just a couple of those events early on just skyrocketed me into the functional medicine, because my chiropractor was like, you're going to chiropractic school. Like, I don't care what you say, you're going. And he's the reason why I went, because I saw he showed up to work every day so happy. He enjoyed work. And I was like, I want to do that for work. I want to go to work and actually enjoy what I do and help people out. And so he was the role model for me. But the functional medicine was just other practitioners later on that were able to help me out naturally instead of getting me on pills. Because, you know, I've done some genetic testing on myself to find out that my drug tolerance is like 0. And so like those like side effects that like 2% of people get, anytime I take a medication, I get all of it. So I've learned like medication is just not my thing. And some people need to be on those things, and I get it, but I was like, I'm staying far away from this, and I got to figure out the natural way to figure things out.
Yeah. It's so funny because like it was during 2020 when everyone was wearing masks around the same time that I had to get a bridge done. And it was kind of funny because like at first I was really paranoid about like, you know, having, you know, a tooth. Hey, here's my missing teeth. Yay. Look at these, like, look at this gap hole of like, they have. And it was so funny because like, you know, like I didn't have an issue with it because it was a process. It's a 3-month transition process of having a procedure, removing them, bone, like all the formation, whatever. And then later on, then, hey, we're going to attach the bridge and blah, blah, blah. But so it worked out coincidentally that, you know, nobody was really doing anything during that time. No one was going anywhere. So it was like, oh, sweet. I could kind of get away without having teeth and give proper healing instead of having to put in the retainer that gives the fake look, like it has the fake teeth in the retainer. And so it was nice because I could allow them to heal the way they needed to heal instead of having to have the ups and downs of it. But it was hilarious because when I went in for like the pre-op like appointment, you know, they're going over sensitivities to medications and things of that nature. And they're like, okay, well, we can give you these painkillers and this and this and this. And I'm like, sweetie, I don't think I'm going to need that. And then she just kind of looked at me, was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, I mean, I might keep the drugs for a zombie apocalypse someday, but like, other than that, like, I don't really think I'm going to need that. Cause when I had the abscess a couple months ago and I had to take an extra strength Tylenol, I was high as a kite for like 6 hours. And it was worse as I was working. And like I got up at that morning, I had my tea that tastes like coffee. And then I grabbed my, you know, my protein bar. So I had a full stomach. And then, you know, it was like when the pain started to set in, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take this. So I took my Tylenol, and then I was like, okay, like an hour or two kind of went past, and I was like, okay, I'm not really feeling it. And then I was safe to take a second because I didn't take 2 at once. I only took 1. But by the time that second one hit me, shit, I was like, I mean, it was worse than drinking a bottle of wine. Like, it was insane. And I was like, I was so sensitive that I immediately was like, I should not take a single painkiller. And oh my God, thank God this isn't something where it was anesthetics putting me under, because if it was, I might die. Like
yeah.
And that's kind of a fear of mine, is like, if God forbid I was like in a car accident and then I get anesthetics, they would give me the normal dose for a normal human, like height, weight, and everything. But my sensitivity to medications is so strong that like, no, I think that could kill me. Like, I'm like, no. And then on top of that, they'd be calling me by my legal name. And then I'm a goner because I wouldn't respond because I don't go by that name at all. But at the same time, I'd just be like, they wouldn't be calling me Abby. They'd be looking at my file and they'd be like, Kristen, who the hell's that? Like, what? Like, I would just be like,
That's funny. No, I had the same thing when I got my wisdom teeth out. And I was like in high school, same thing. My mom was like, you're not going to be on these meds that long, because like I was like a zombie the entire week. And she's like, it's no wonder people get addicted to this stuff, because like Oh my gosh.
It is.
And I mean, I'm small now, but like I weighed a good like 20 pounds less than what I do now, and I'm still small. And they had me on like regular dosage of stuff. And I'm like, Vicodin, ibuprofen, I think it was
Yeah.
like 800. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is absolutely insane. They
It was
just
intense. I think when I got my wisdom teeth out, I had 400 milligrams of Vicodin because I didn't think they upped it. And then that's the other thing. Have you noticed that medication dosages have gotten even bigger? Like,
oh yeah, oh my gosh, yeah. And thyroid meds are just those are just very, very I could go on and on about thyroid meds, but it's the dosages on these things just blow my mind. And then when I see what the doctors are ordering with labs to see, like, oh, is the thyroid improving? And oh, we're going to get you down on this, or we're going to up at this. It doesn't even like. I'll look at my patient. I'm like, why did they up your dose when your thyroid's doing better? Like, this doesn't make sense to like. There's no
or they
correlation
didn't
of
test for everything. How many
well,
times have you seen it where they did a T3 and a TSH, but they didn't even have a T4 or anything else? Like they had nothing else. They had to test it for two things.
10 out of 10 times. Like
Yeah.
because my lab panel for thyroid is eight things. Like I order 8 different things to check out how the thyroid's doing, and then I get 2 things from my patient. They're like, well, I have Hashimoto's. I was like, how do you know? Oh, my doctor
Yeah.
told me. And I was like, well, they didn't run the things to tell you if it is even Hashimoto's or not.
Right.
Like, and yeah, and one other sad thing about labs and doctors getting you on medication. I've had a patient that was getting treated for type 2 diabetes when she had type 1. I mean,
Oh,
and it,
jeez.
yeah, and the labs weren't getting better. So it's just like, I mean, it's sad. I was like, if you notice after a couple of months the labs aren't getting better, you need to start diving deeper and order more labs to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And yeah,
There's a
so
lot of these things. I mean, like a lot. I mean, I get it. It's hard to make the changes that need to be done for your body, especially, like my diabetes people, it's hard for them. It's like, it's sometimes I even tell them, I was like, it's not saying that you can't have that. It's just that the timing to which you consumed it was wrong. Like,
right.
like I'm just like, okay, if you did want to have that, okay, can you do that after a workout where your body actually can process that? Like your body doesn't
Yeah,
know the difference between it. Not that I'm saying, hey, I want you to eat that in general, but at the same time, it's like there's ways to, there's timing issues,
yeah,
there's quantity issues, there's the type of which you expose yourself to that makes that have that influence. But it's so interesting that, like, a lot of it's accountability. Like we have jobs to hold people accountable and to get them back and upright to where they're supposed to be. Like that's what we're here for. There are plenty of people that are, self-determined and ambitious, and like there's a good 25% of the population that are well regimented and they can do it because they've got that mindset and that determination. But there's so many people that are discouraged, and I feel like we're stuck between this. Am I discouraged because I've tried so many things and the systems have failed me, and like I really haven't gotten all the answers that I needed? Or was it their lack of accountability? I feel like it's a combination of
yeah,
both.
I agree.
Like, and it's like, because once somebody is actually feeling better, they're able to stick with it. A lot of the people that work with me, they jump into things, they realize, oh my gosh, I have the energy, I feel so good. And they have that one moment where they ended up eating something just to say, what, I've been really good for a while, and one piece isn't going to kill me. And then they eat it and they're like, holy shit, I'm never doing that again. Like I
Yeah,
had no idea. And so, yeah, like they didn't even realize. They're like, if I felt that bad that one time, imagine what I was doing to myself for years. That's not worth it. And it's
yeah,
like they learn very, very quickly, but it's
yes,
because we had to do a clean out. We had to do the de-inflammation process. We had to actually address, hey, this is how your body reacts to exercise, reacts to food, reacts to your stress levels, all of those different things. And then once they started to actually feel what was good and bad in their body, then the accountability was there. It wasn't, they were no longer a lost cause. But because they didn't have the people putting the effort into it, because the systems were failing them, then they couldn't get where they needed to be. And I feel
right.
like that's what needs to change.
Oh yeah. I mean, when you see a doc once a year and they say everything's doing great, but you don't feel great, there's no accountability there if you're only seeing them once every 6 months
Right.
or once every year. And so us seeing them more on the regular and guiding them through it and also educating too, because there's just so many things out there that just people are completely unaware of on the holistic side. Like you're talking
Completely.
about the foods you put into your body, but also I have to educate people on the water they're drinking, the products they're using on their body, like all of these other things that they don't even think of. Like the minute they go to Walmart and get a shampoo, that it could be causing their hormone issues. And
Right.
so there's just this whole other side of us having to educate on things that other conventional docs aren't even bringing up. I'd love to know, like, most docs don't even bring up like what the food that they're eating is in like a regular checkup. Like, hey, how's your diet been?
Right.
And that could be like a huge thing if they're like, hey, I'm eating McDonald's most days during my lunch during the week. Well, of course you're gonna have to be on metformin and different things like that, because it's just, I mean, you're doing it to yourself, but docs aren't there to say it. They're like, oh yeah, you're type 2, here's this med.
Right.
So um
Well, I have loved that you were on the show with me today. I thank you so much for all of your time and your effort and your work, like just even being the way that you are. I'm so excited. Like your practice is expanding, you're thriving in the business, and you're just at the beginning of it, which is really fun to
I
watch because
know.
it's like when I see good people that know what the hell they're talking about and where they're going, and it's like I've worked with people that have been in the industry for over 30-40 years. I've seen where they've been and how they've just mastered their craft. But when you see really good people at the beginning of their careers, and you've been doing this for a while, so it's not like you're at the very beginning of it. You're rooted, you've been developing, but now your practice is even more expansive, and I'm just really excited. How can people find you?
So I own Renew Health and Wellness in McKinney, Texas. I do have social media. I have Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever you'd prefer. But biggest thing is looking up Renew Health and Wellness. And I'm starting to get better about my social media. It's been so busy
Yay!
within that first year of opening up a business. It's kind of crazy. So I'm starting to get it going more. Also, my last name. People can write down my last name, because if you search me, you will find me. I'm the only Julia Augustyniak. Now, you might find my brother. You might find my brother. He's practicing in Arkansas, but I am the only Julia Augustyniak, so that's like the easiest way to find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the Capitol Life, and we wish you luck, and you are freaking fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me today on the Capitol Life, where we talk about all the things. Join me next Saturday as we discuss mental floss.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube and Facebook at Capitol Health. That's Kapitol Health. Please share with your friends and family. The Capitol Life is available on all podcasting platforms except Pandora. Our goal at the Capitol Life is to provide a safe place to get information when it comes to your health and wellness, especially when dealing with all of life's phases. Remember to take care of yourself, because you're somebody's everything.